This is a losing battle. 100 other monsters will show up to replace anyone you take down.
Probably. But now they'll all know I'm coming for them.
The Adventures of Batman.
Welcoming you to the new adventures of Batman.
Welcome to episode 48 of Batmanimation, a Batman on Film podcast, revisiting the animated adventures of the Caped Crusader. I'm senior contributor Javi Trujillo, and joining me today once again is my partner in crime fighting, recent New Jersey visitor, Bill Jett Ramey. Bill, how was your trip out east?
It was great. We spent 2 days in New York City. I then jumped across the river and went to New Jersey, to North Brunswick, the hometown of Pete Vera, and surprised him for his birthday annual crawfish boil. And it was more than that. He cooked a whole hell of a lot of food. But yeah, he had no idea we were coming. So me and Rachel just showed up. His brother picked us up. And we had a good time. So watch the video. I have a video on BOF's YouTube. You can I did a little short video of the event. You can see me sneaking up on him in the whole 9 yards. So there you go.
Was there any boudin served?
There was. Yeah.
Did he pull it out of his pockets?
He did. He did. Watch the end of the video. And everybody stay with the end of the video, and it ends with me and Pete. And yeah, he pulled it straight out of his pocket and takes a big bite of it.
For those who've recently joined us, that is a reference to the 2022 watch party for the Batman, where Bill cooked some of his contributors a very nice meal. And Pete was so in love with boudin that he may have put some in his pockets for the way home.
He did. He did. Yeah, it was it was and he got all that. You think crawfish in New Jersey, but yeah, he gets it from Louisiana Crawfish Company. They ship them live all the way from Louisiana to New Jersey, and he did a hell of a job, hell of a job.
And that can't be cheap to ship them live.
I don't think it is. No.
Yeah.
The further you're away from Louisiana, the more it costs. So, but he only does it once a year. So I guess he saves his pennies for his
and I'm sure it was worth it.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Well, once again, we're going to highlight the fact that this is the 85th anniversary of Batman this year. So we've got a lot of milestones for the Caped Crusader with the Batman 89 movie, with Batman Beyond, with the Batman show. And now we have a new one to add to the roster. Batman Caped Crusader, which just dropped a trailer yesterday ahead of its August 1st release on Amazon Prime. So we've actually had a lot of news about it this week. There's an interview on IGN where they talked with Chris Tucker and Bruce Timm and Hamish Linklater, if I'm pronouncing that right, talking about the show. Before we cover that interview, though, what did you think of the trailer yesterday, Bill? What were your first impressions?
It's exactly what I imagined it to be. It's exactly what I would imagine that I have imagined a 1939/early 1940s noir period piece Batman animated movie or series or even live action would look like. And it did not disappoint me whatsoever. It's dark, it's brooding. It is, straight up got that 40s vibe. It's not like Batman the Animated Series where it's kind of a mishmash, timeless piece, because you have computers and you have all the gadgets and you have TV and you have this and that. And then you have people driving, excuse me, 1940s cars and wearing fedoras and all that. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I love that we can talk about it in detail here as we go forward. But overall, yeah, that did not disappoint me whatsoever.
And typically for Batmanimation, we discuss an episode. But today we're just talking the trailer announcement and this breaking news. And there's for 2 minutes, there's quite a bit to digest and take in. Like you were saying, there is that familiar BTAS style, but the fact that it is much more rooted in this 1940s era, this 1939 era, paying tribute to the origins of Batman. We get like I still feel like the Bruce Timm influence on the character design, very much so. But I mean, it's harkening back to his Bob Kane, for lack of a better uh, name, origins and look, and it's similar. He's similar to how Batman appeared in Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, where they did go for that Kane style ear from the first appearances. But instead of like black with like blue highlights, this Batman looks to be black with like a gray lighting scheme. How did that appeal to your sensibilities?
Well, I like that original Batman aesthetic. Not saying it's my preferred look, but I like it a lot. And if you're going to do a period piece, you got to go that look. It's got, he's got the shorter, just the gloves on, and not the long with the scallop, long
with the
gloves,
cuff instead of the
and, yeah. And but yeah, it looks good. It looks it's almost like, what was it for Batman 80 or Batman 75, maybe 10 years ago, they had that short.
I think it was the 80th. Yeah.
Yeah, from Bruce Timm. Yeah, 10 years ago, where it was kind of a riff off of Batman and the Monster Man, or Hugo Strange and the Monster Man from Batman #1. And it was clearly, Batman was in a biplane. It looks very much like that. And that was kind of like, that was like a precursor to this in a way. Even though
you're right, it was 75. So yeah, it was 10 years ago that came out.
Yeah, and yeah, it seems like it wasn't that long ago, but it was like from reading the IGN interview, Bruce Timm, it doesn't seem like he was at that point 10 years ago, planting the seeds of this. It's like Warner came to him and said, "Do you want to continue Batman the Animated Series?" And he said, "No, I don't want to go revisit that, and then, well, let's do something different." And so they're doing something different, obviously.
Yeah, I like that you pointed out that short. It was called Strange Days. They did two. They did one by Bruce Timm, which was that Monster Man story, and then another one that was Batman Beyond by Darwin Cook. Paying tribute to the legacy. And unlike, well, that Batman in Strange Days does look really similar to the one we're going to see in Cape Crusader. The Strange Days short had more of a silent movie feel to it, like more like a sepia tone, and they put in like grit. And from what we've seen in the trailer, this doesn't have that type of look to it. It's just
it's color.
Yeah, they're not trying to make it look like this cartoon came out in the 40s. There is a modern sensibility to the animation, and it's not like Batman the Animated Series where it was hand drawn, and this definitely looks like a modern production for Batman, but with that Bruce Timm aesthetic. What did you think of the new Batman voice? Now that we've heard it.
When they did voice cast teaser, trailer, whatever you want to call it, announcement. Last week, or
I know
it was when I was traveling. Okay, I was traveling a week ago, starting Thursday, and I got text from you that the Penguin trailer had dropped, and then it was the Batman, Cape Crusader stuff. It was just,
yeah.
that's how it always happens. So I did get it up, but I was a little tardy on some of them because of just logistics. But Hamish Linklater was the narrator of that little short cast announcement short, and I knew as soon as he started talking, I said, I that's got to be the dude playing Batman. And I liked at the end he said, it kind of goes from back, and they kind of build up to the more prominent voices. There's like Christina Ricci, and I'm Hamish Linklater, and I'm Batman. I thought it was really cool, and it's different. I think when you watch, you actually see them voicing, as they are recording. There's a different to when you watch the actual product when it's Batman and the voices with the animated animation. Batman. It makes a difference. I don't know why. It just could be in your head, but I think it's a great. I think he's really good at this. I want to hear his Bruce Wayne. They talked a lot about his Bruce Wayne and how like he was the only one who could really do what they were wanting and hoping to hear. And that's what really got it for him. So, yeah, I mean.
Yeah, I like how he mentioned that, like, his idea of Bruce was that he just watched like 40 Cary Grant movies and tried to pull that kind of Lothario sophisticate from that. Like, he made his persona watching, other people.
Yeah, it's nonsense. It's BS. It's not. It's a facade. It's fake. He's putting on an act completely because they are going with he's Batman 24/7. Bruce Wayne is just the act, the public Bruce Wayne. We talked about it a little bit on the social hour this week, talking about this. We recorded it, and it was before the trailer dropped, but we were talking about the voice announcement, and that was mentioned as well. And it seems that they're taking more of a page from the Batman in a way, the live action movie, where Bruce Wayne is just, he's Batman, and that's it. That's all there is. And in fact, there's not even a fake Bruce Wayne yet because he's so awkward socially and doesn't care that he comes across, as you saw the film, everybody out there saw the film. He comes across as this socially awkward individual who's completely out of his place, when he's not Batman. And this is more of, he's putting on the act, at least. He's gone that far in his progression, is that he's established the fake Bruce Wayne, the public Bruce Wayne. So I'm anxious to see, like, when Bruce is with Alfred, what the voice is like, what the mannerisms, what the how they portray that aspect of the he's still Batman. So I'm assuming with that he's it'll be like he's Batman, but he doesn't have the suit on. So I want to see the two different versions. Because like in the Dark Knight trilogy, they went with the three versions. There was Batman, there was Private Bruce, only Rachel and Alfred knew, and then there was the public Bruce Wayne, and that's I like that. There's different ways to do it. You don't have to do it all the same way. Everything has to be the same. So, yeah, I'm on board with this.
The trailer did show us a look at Alfred, a couple looks at Alfred, who is a lot heavier than we're used to seeing him. And he did have a scene with Batman in the Batcave, but Batman was fully suited up as Batman, so we didn't
Mm-hmm.
get that more private Bruce Wayne that you were talking about. Because Kevin Conroy definitely did not have his Batman voice on all the time if he was in the
Mm-hmm.
cave. It kind of depended on the scene. But he was definitely more relaxed when he was in the cave with Alfred, whether he was suited or not. And that was something that they mentioned too about casting Batman, that they didn't go to Conroy because this was in 2020. So he was still alive. He was still with us. Um, but Bruce Timm says that he felt that we kind of needed to go in a different direction with the show right away. I felt like the minute we brought Kevin back, if we had gone that way, it's hard enough to get people to realize, yeah, we're not doing it again. It's a remix, not a reboot. It's not a remake or reboot. So we felt like right out of the gate, we needed to have somebody different to play him.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot of people expected it to be Conroy right away with Bruce Timm's involvement, but it seems like from the jump they were set on making this stand apart from what came before, even though there are a lot of visual similarities. Um, I'm assuming that you were okay with that and
Yeah,
how it
yeah.
all
So
worked out in the
when
end.
it was announced, when it was announced, I said you got to go with a different voice actor for Batman, but or it's just gonna, I know this is blasphemy for some, but um, as big of a fan as I am of Kevin Conroy's voice work as Batman, there was always when he voiced Batman projects that weren't Batman the animated series related. I always went, I was always like, okay, why? Because I get it. It's the voice of Batman, quote unquote. But I like different takes. And to me, when it was Conroy, I always went back to Batman the animated series. It's
Yeah.
just, there was just that connection with that. Some of the animated films previous animated films, they would get Conroy to do. He's the Killing Joke,
Justice League Doom.
yeah, a lot of those. I liked it when they always liked it when they got another actor to voice Batman, and it just made it feel like a different version completely.
Yeah. I know IMDb had him listed on the cast for this up until we got the official cast announcement. So I wonder if he was able to record anything as like a legacy nod before he passed away, if that was something they did. Because, we saw Adam West come back as the Gray Ghost in Kevin Conroy's show, and then
Mm-hmm.
and not only just as has he played Batman, but Kevin Conroy's voiced Thomas Wayne a few times. He has been the Batman of Zur-En-Arrh, Peter Vera's favorite
Yeah,
character.
he was
And
the mayor in the Batman animated series.
he did the Phantom Stranger in The
Yeah.
Brave and the Bold, if I'm remembering that right. So he's done other voices in DC. So I'm curious if he did even just a bit part or a cameo for one of these episodes. But speaking
Okay.
of,
I got you, Kevin Conroy.
yeah,
Yeah. West was the mayor in the Batman.
yeah,
Not Kevin Conroy. Yeah, I'm with you. So perhaps he voiced a character in one episode. We will see. Obviously, starting August 1st. But on the other hand, IMDb is not always 100% reliable. So
yeah.
I'll throw in that caveat.
But we definitely are going to get more Batman in this because your favorite Batman show, the Batman, the Brave and the Bold, not only does it have one of the producers of that,
Mm-hmm.
but the voice of Batman
Mm-hmm.
is playing Harvey Dent.
Mm-hmm.
So you either die a hero Batman or live long enough
Yeah.
to see yourself become the villain. And he's going to be Two-Face, which we got to hear some of that and see some of that in the trailer. Um, how did his what we heard work for you? Do you like the new Two-Face look? Did you hear
Yeah.
some of his Batman creep in, or did it sound like he
No,
was a different character?
yeah, I didn't hear his Batman. Um,
I didn't either. I was happy
yeah,
about that.
yeah, it was, I know in this take, Harvey, they're going a little bit different take where he is actually, as DA, he's a little corrupt and not, not the white knight of other depictions as DA. And obviously we see him as Harvey Dent before Two-Face. So at some point, I'm assuming he becomes Two-Face. So I guess we're going to see how.
Yeah.
And I'm anxious to see how that happens and how he's portrayed after he does become Two-Face. And as far as the look, yeah, I mean, there's sometimes when I think that, the over the top green face or purple face is a little much,
Mhm.
This seems to be a more grounded approach to where he's just scarred on
Maybe
one side
a
of his
more Matt
face.
Reeves approach to it.
He's executive producer, so I don't know how much influence that he had when it comes to the creative side and aesthetics, but I would say he has some. Obviously, I would, there are some folks who have thrown out there that um, the way Clayface is used in this series, it may be a precursor to what we could expect if we see the character in his live action The Batman Saga. So
I guess we're
there
gonna
is
have to
that.
wait
Yeah.
and see. I like the design for Harvey. The character model reminds me of like a John Romita Sr. Peter Parker drawing. Like if you picture how Peter Parker looked in the late 60s, like that's the vibe I'm getting. I thought it was interesting that it's the other side of his face in the trailer that looked like it was scarred, not the traditional left side.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's just one of the ways to differentiate. Before we get to the next thing I wanted to talk about, we're going to take a quick pause for our sponsors. And we're back. So I wanted to talk to you about Harley Quinn, who we do see in the trailer. She's not in her traditional
Mm-hmm.
red and black. It was more like a yellow and green. Um, so not only is she aesthetically different looking, but her character is kind of flip-flopped from what
Mm-hmm.
we're used to, where the more frivolous side of her is the Dr. Quinzel, and the more serious side is the villain. What impressions did you have from seeing her in the trailer?
I I would expect them to do something different with Harley than what we've seen traditionally before. I mean, for the most part, the way she's been depicted in other mediums besides comic books has been kind of sort of the same.
Mhm.
Now we haven't got her like, well, for a brief moment, I think what in the Suicide Squad we saw Margot Robbie in the Jester suit,
Yeah.
the red and black Jester suit. But other than that, she's more, she doesn't wear that. I mean, she's not like that in live action but in comic, I mean, or in animation, we've seen her in that she's kind of morphed into more of that look that she had from the Suicide Squad,
Yeah.
with Margot Robbie. So, and that's fine. But yeah, I mean, I get you're wanting to do something different. I mean, you don't want to Batman, I'd say you're kind of limited, right? I mean, you're not
Yeah.
going to change his aesthetic completely, you know? Like you come out and make one that's like the original Bob Kane red and black, and the
Oh
bat
God.
wings and the domino mat. You're not going to do that.
And no ears. Yeah, that would
Yeah.
be.
But with Harley, yeah, I mean, you can play around with that character, and I get them wanting to do something different, and I can't judge it because I haven't seen it yet. But all I've in the description and this the look, I'm fine with it. Like you said, that she's kind of the flip flop of what we're used to with between Harley and her alter ego. She she's Asian. She's not a blonde, Caucasian
Yeah.
blonde. She and she predates the Joker, which is another interesting twist.
Yeah. I don't mind her being predating the Joker. Um, and because we've moved on from that interpretation, across, different aspects of media, where she has struck out on her own. Um, so it's interesting to me that we don't know a Joker yet. So maybe that's a season two thing, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's a surprise. But um, I like the fact that we're kind of building to that, like the Dark Knight did, that we're not just right off the bat going with that. Bruce Timm said, even if a B-Task version of those characters were 100% successful, we just didn't want to use those versions again. So we had to
Mm-hmm.
change everything. Um, and I get him coming with that perspective because it's been 30 some odd years of having it that way. And he's the co-creator. If he wants to
Mm-hmm.
try something different, then like by all means, let's let him do what he wants to do, because when you hit this milestone of 85 years, like that's how you keep it fresh and that's how you keep it going, is
Mm-hmm.
by tweaking little things and making it different so it stands
Mm-hmm.
out because it's already been done this way or that way. And um like I, it's, we're in the era of the multiverse for better or worse. And I'm all for seeing this different take, because it doesn't negate the fact that we had Arlene Sorkin on Batman the Animated Series,
Yeah.
or any of the other different interpretations we've had, from the Max show to Margot Robbie or the video games. Like all that's still there and you can still look at it. But now we have a new layer to inspire other creators going forward, and I'm kind of curious to see how it goes. Like I want to see what a sinister, more serious Harley Quinn would look like.
Mm-hmm.
And she had a great line. I meant to write it down about the Kings and what they need as a jester, and it kind of just gave you a little taste of what we're going to get. But I'm looking forward to seeing what they do.
Yeah, I've saw some negative quote unquote reaction. People need to get out of their bubble sometimes,
Yeah.
and not be so rigid. It has to be this way. I mean, yeah, maybe this new interpretation you may not like, but all you've seen right now is some promotional stills, some brief shots in the trailer with her in motion. You've heard her speak, and uh, what Bruce Timm, and others involved have said in interviews, about how they took it and kind of did the switcheroo with the
Yeah.
two versions of the character of Harley and Harleen, and predating the Joker and whatnot. So you got to see it in action. You got to see it in context. You got to see it in the story before you, I mean, people were making, just based on that little cast announcement video, saying they didn't like Hamish Linklater as Batman, And like I said earlier, there's something about seeing it in context and the visual.
Yeah.
That, when you see this person in the flesh, it's usually not, they're not in a Batman costume. And a lot of times they would not be someone who would play Batman in a live action film,
Yeah.
So,
but it's, it's similar to Colin Farrell. Like, he doesn't look like the Penguin, but put him in the makeup chair and let the artists do their work, and he is the Penguin. And this is the same thing. It's just, instead of makeup, it's animation.
yeah.
And I think having, Bruce Timm and James Tucker be executive producers, like, they arguably made the two most popular animated series based on Batman. And now they're combining forces with J.J. Abrams, whether you like him or not, and Matt Reeves, who brought us one of the greatest Batman films ever. Like, it's an interesting alchemy that we're going to get to check into. And, the going back to that, like, year one type vibe with, Batman in conflict with the police. And I'm looking forward to getting back to that, to seeing that dynamic again.
It's everything that I really like about Batman is, I like the early Batman. I like the year one-ish, two-ish, the early Batman, the young Batman, I don't want to say, rookie, but rookie-ish Batman, if you will. And then you throw in it being a period piece. Because I like Wonder Woman. I really enjoyed, not only was it a good movie, I like the, World War I setting. Captain America, the first Avenger, one of my favorite MCU movies, and a lot of it has to do with it being World War II period piece, So, this is right straight up my alley. And then also to hear Bruce Timm's, kind of say, we're not, I wouldn't count on us doing sidekicks and Robin and Batgirl.
Right. Yeah.
And certainly we don't have any plans to bring in other DC characters. That's just, me, but that's right. Excuse me. Talking about right up my alley. Yes. Let this be Batman. Okay. We don't, I don't get immediately saying, okay, we got to have Superman come in. We got to have such and such come. No, you don't have to do that. Just like I don't need to see Batman to enjoy my adventures with Superman on Max.
Yeah.
Let it be its thing. It's Superman. Okay. Do Superman stuff with Superman characters in a Superman world.
Yeah. He brings that up, that in the article, Bruce Timm does, how, they started with the solo Batman show and then they built on it. And then from there it became Superman and Beyond and JLA and JLU, or sorry, JLU and JL and everything that's come after, and how that's been copied in live action to a degree. And so I like that they're going back to basics with this and just stripping it down, because like that's just where the pendulum seems to be swinging momentarily. And getting back to like that year one aspect of it, it's something they mentioned, and I don't feel like they did it a lot. But for reasons, I was watching the first episode of BTAS this week on Leather Wings, and there's very much that the cops are against Batman dynamic, but to my recollection, it doesn't really last very long before we get into the partnership between the GCPD and Batman. So it seems like we're going to explore that a little bit more in this show. And something that they bring up on the various commentaries for like Batman Beyond and the animated series are the limitations they had because of practices and standards and being on network TV. And how they showed Batman with blood just once on Leather Wings, and they weren't really allowed to ever again. There were discussions of, can they have laser guns instead of machine guns?
Yeah.
And they had to, his quote is, we didn't have the same kind of limitations that we had back in the 90s, where it was made specifically for a children's audience, and we had to worry about making sure that we could sell a certain number of toys. Now, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if some company like McFarlane or any other license makes figures from the show at some point down the road. But I mean, that's not the goal of this. This isn't Batman and Robin,
Yeah,
where everything has to be Toyota.
Yeah, it's where the film or the series is just the facilitator to sell merchandise.
Yeah.
Like advertisement. So we're talking about that on the social hour as well. Is like, we wondered, will there be any merchandise that goes along with this series? And we brought McFarlane came right up. I mean, I would so get that McFarlane version of this if it came out of a Batman or any of these
I
characters
mean,
came out.
I almost feel like I kind of did with
I was
that.
just I was just about to
Detective.
say, yeah, I'm looking at it right now. I'm looking at the 1939 McFarlane figure.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, he's kind of
Other
done
than
it. So
other than the gloves,
yeah,
which are purple,
yeah.
it and the belt,
Mhm.
like it's pretty much what that model looks like. And it wouldn't be hard for them to like just repaint the gloves and then just retool a different belt, and then like
Mhm.
there's their animated figure right there.
Yeah.
Because it is very, trying to look at my shelf, I'm like, it is very simplistic. It doesn't have a lot of musculature. Um, but I like that we're going to get to see a Bruce Timm unencumbered by the limitations he faced 30 years ago. I think that's going to make for
It brings up
even more of a mature storytelling.
that's a good point. I get the reverence that Batman the Animated Series gets and has about it, and it is one of the greatest Batman projects, pieces of media we've ever gotten in its 85th, 85 years of Batman. It's just, me personally, it's not I don't revere it. It's not as important to me as it is others. I get it's a generational thing. It's an age thing.
Yeah.
But when this came out, I was 20, about to be 27, and my Batman sensibilities, my Batman world was already fully formed. So it just didn't have that impact on me as it did. Like, say you were 10, 11, 12 years old watching that, and I get I get Bruce Timm saying, yeah, I mean, yeah, we love Batman the Animated Series, but I don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
You know?
He even said that they
Yeah.
offered him to
Yeah.
go back and
Yeah.
relaunch it, and
Yeah.
he didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
So if there's one thing I was disappointed with the trailer, was not getting to hear Christina Ricci more.
Mm.
'Cause I don't think she really, if she said something, I didn't pick up on it.
Yeah.
We did see Catwoman, but I
Yeah.
would have liked to have heard a little more from her. But it looks like we have Barbara Gordon in the show,
Mhm.
being very proactive in
Mhm.
some cases. Um, so, for those who are worried, like she is there with her dad.
I think in an article it mentions that she ends up becoming a reluctant ally of Batman.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see how they go there. But they said, yeah, they had no plans for Batgirl. Montoya is a character who was created in the
For
Batman the
the
Animated Series, and
yeah.
this is a different take on that character. And I want to see the Gordon Batman dynamic. Where are we at with this season 1? Because you brought up earlier about, the cops are after him, the city leaders are after him. I want to see where Gordon is when we get here, when we watch this at this point.
Yeah, like what kind of Gordon are we even
Are
talking
they
about?
allies yet? Are they working
Yeah.
towards that? You know what I mean? So is we'll see. I mean, that's the whole thing. We get to see. We didn't have everything laid out for us just with this trailer. It's just to get us a taste of it and get us excited. And I'm excited. I'm
Yeah, and
excited for it.
it's going to be here before we know it. One last thing to touch on is the style of storytelling that they talked about.
Mm-hmm.
They said every episode has kind of a standalone A plot, but then there's certain plot threads that we call the soap opera plots that weave in and out of the first season. Bruce Timm explains. Harvey Dent's storyline is a big part of it. Barbara, her relationship with her dad, and how she comes to end up being a reluctant ally of Batman, that kind of weaves its way in through the stories as well. And Montoya as well. So it's a little bit serialized. It
Mm-hmm.
helps if you watch them in order, but each one is also more of a standalone episode. Um, does that kind of storytelling appeal
Yes.
to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's exact. We again just yesterday on the social hour we speculated. I think Lauer brought it up. It was like, okay, are these going to be self-contained completely, or are we going to have a ongoing, underneath, secondary, third level plot going on, the different little storylines within? And I figured that it would be like that. I guess the closest thing maybe would be Beware the Batman. Kind of had that.
Yeah. Yeah. They were definitely like building to something, but they were standalone.
Yeah.
Um, I used to think like the serialized storytelling was interesting. And I just over the years, like it's just kind of worn on me a little bit with like if you look at like let's take The Flash, for example. You got 22, 24 episodes a season, and you get your big threat in season one, or not season one, in the first episode. And then you've got to wait all year to get that resolution, which is a long
That's
time.
what
22 episodes is a long time to draw that kind of stuff
that
out.
ended up. Yeah, that turned me. I kind of lost interest in the Flash because it got to be so convoluted that
Yeah.
and I think what they're going for here is, yes, each episode is its own thing, but there are some things that are carrying over. I don't think they're building up to some big shebang, in
Yeah.
the final episode or of the season or anything like that. But there will be things about like Gordon and Barbara, their relationship, and you know, probably with Batman and Gordon, and things that are continue that we see uh, told in a soap opera underneath, low level way throughout.
Yeah. There's in terms of like Star Trek, there's Star Trek Discovery, which does that serialized, like, here's the problem in episode one, and we don't solve it until episode 10. And you've got to go through, the all season, and there's
Mm-hmm.
like there's lulls, I think, that can happen in the storytelling because you're not going to get any kind of closure until the end. Versus Strange New Worlds, which has that this is an episode. You can put it in and watch it, and you get a full meal. But there are threads, like character threads, that will pick up on
Yeah.
throughout the year
Yeah.
that build and make it feel like cohesive, even though they're
Yes.
standalones. And it sounds
Exactly.
like Cape Crusader is going that route, which I'm all for. I think
Yeah.
that's a good way to go to give it
Yeah.
that comic book sense of continuity, but without like drawing it out through a major
Mm-hmm.
major arc. So I think that's exciting, and it's something that we haven't really, other than Beware the Batman, like we haven't really gotten that type of Batman
Mm-hmm.
animation storytelling before, because BTAS was definitely here's an episode. Same with the Batman, the cartoon. Like there were two-parters,
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, it was its own, every episode was its own little bubble.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that we're getting that mixture of everything going in. Um, so they're saying that, they've got season one, it's done, obviously. Work has begun on season two because they got that approved already. And for where the future goes, like that's anyone's guess. Um, so they're like, if it's 10 episodes, so if we get to 100 or however many BTAS got to, then maybe, who knows? So say we get to 100 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
If we get to that marker, at that point, is that when you would say to yourself, you know what? I wouldn't mind seeing a just society in this cartoon just once.
No.
No.
I
Okay.
no. I'll give you Robin. I'll give you that one. But
Okay.
I just
I'll
I
take
just
it.
want this to be Batman.
Yeah.
This is
That's
where
fair.
the Batman animated series kind of lost me, is when, the last two seasons they really went with the bringing in different DC characters, non-Batman DC characters.
Yeah.
It kind of got to a Justice League type of, members would show up and whatnot. And I was kind of
Well,
okay,
by
don't,
the end, we had
yeah,
Nightwing and Robin and
yeah,
Batgirl and an occasional Superman crossover.
yeah,
We
the
had the
Flash,
Demon.
yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry, the Batman, not the animated series.
yeah.
Yeah, the Batman
Um,
definitely became like a Justice League show at the
and
end of
I
that.
and if for those who say, well, you like the Brave and the Bold, that's your favorite. Yes, but the difference is it was a love letter to all of Batman history.
Yeah,
It was trying to be, and that's what it was trying to be. And so it included, and I would say DC history too, because
yeah,
did some deep pools in that series. And you're also riffing off the Brave and the Bold premise from the comic books, where it was Batman and Deadman, Batman and Green Arrow, Batman and the Question, whoever, that was the premise of that
yeah.
of
The
that
original
of that
comic, not the
title,
one
the
we have
original.
right
Yeah,
now.
yes. So with this just wanting to be Batman, this is what it wants to be. It's what it's intended to be. It's not intended to be an homage to anything else, but it's being itself. So that's, yeah. I'll give you Robin. Superman and the
All right,
rest.
I'll take
I'll
it.
leave Superman over in he can have that, because I like that show, the My Adventures with Superman. He can stay over there.
Um, really quick, what did you think of the Batmobile?
I wondered if they would have a Batmobile. I wondered what it would be. I thought, are they going to go with like that red convertible sedan, the original Batmobile or something like that? But it's like a full on Batmobile, that makes he driving around that hot rod of his at 100 miles an hour. So
Yeah,
yeah, there's a Batmobile. I liked it. I
it's
want to see. Yeah,
it's stylized, but I don't feel like
yeah,
it's Bat stylized.
yeah.
You know, it has a unique look to it
I
because,
wonder,
back then
yeah,
cars did have like a nice sense of style.
yeah.
There was an elegance to cars from that era, so it's got that, but it
I'm
doesn't have like
looking,
the big bat face on the
yeah,
front like the
because I
40s did.
wondered. I did. I went, okay. So I'm looking at them right now. I got the red, the original Batmobile. It's a Hot Wheels. And then I also have the Hot Wheels the 1940s Batmobile that has the big bat head on the front and the big fin
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the back. And I thought, I'll go with that. But no, I'm cool with this. I'm cool with it. It looks like it looks like a Batmobile, you know?
Yeah.
And I wonder what the
It came
context
it
is,
came in
where
black. So,
yeah. Uh I like I know we're trying to wrap this up, but I enjoy the fact that there's no computers, there's no cell phones, there's it is 1940s, and so there's not a bat computer in there. And I wonder how much, like this Batmobile, Bruce Wayne make it himself? Is it kind of like the Batman movie where Bruce makes his own stuff? Because I do enjoy. I like that aspect. I know there's Harold and there's the Lucius Fox has become the Q of Batman, and that was the big thing in the Dark Knight trilogy. But there's part of me also, I like what they're doing in the Batman saga, where Batman makes all of his own stuff, and I wonder if they're doing that here, where he is his own Lucius Fox, if you will.
Yeah. Well, and he's got to do his own legwork too.
Mm-hmm.
He can't just look things up on the computer.
Yeah.
He actually has to go out into Gotham and look for clues and interrogate people. Not to say that current Batman doesn't do that, but having the internet is a big help. And we definitely saw the Kevin Conroy Batman at his back computer cross-referencing things all the
They
time,
would put
or
in there.
analyzing something.
They'd put something in the computer and say, "Computer, analyze this," and it'd spit out exactly
even
what
Adam West had that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Adam West's Batman is modern. It's like sci-fi modern compared to the Caped Crusader Batman. It was like a 26-year difference. So there you go.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that affects him as a character and what he has to do. Did you have a favorite part from the trailer?
I think just not specifically like one particular part. I guess I would say just the images of Batman in action we got. The brief images of Batman, swooping in, I thought were really well done. Got me fired up for this.
I love me a good Batman crashing through a skylight shot. So that was nice to see. One moment that stood out to me was, I want to say he was maybe having some conversation with Two-Face about how the villains are going to know who he is now, or something like that.
Yeah.
And we did that. He does that spin in the Batmobile, and you just get that great shot of his eyes. And he's like, "Yeah, but now they know I'm coming for him." Something along those lines.
It's like he says, all you've done is you're going to bring in more,
Yeah.
They're not going to, you get rid of one and others are coming, basically.
Yeah.
And then he said, well, I'm coming after them. So that's, there you go. If I had one moment, I'll go with that too. Yeah. That was a good part.
Yeah. So I think that's going to do it for us today. Bill, where can people find you?
Batman-on-film.com. Just go there. And the only thing I will plug really is interviewed Michael Uslan a couple weeks ago for Batman's 35th anniversary. Interview. And it is not your typical, which I've done before with Michael. It's not the story of how Batman 89 was made. There's a little bit of it in there, but it's really about Batman 89's legacy here at 35 years. Yeah. Not only as its legacy as a Batman film, but also is its legacy in the comic book movie genre as well. And I thought it was really good. So check that out if you haven't listened to it.
Yeah, I got to listen to it after the last time we recorded, and it's we're in such an interesting time right now, because like we can look back at Batman Beyond and the Batman cartoon and certainly Batman 1989 and see where we are today. But there's so much to look forward to in the next couple of years between Caped Crusader, and then a month after that we're getting the Penguin, and then a month after that we're getting Joker 2, and then a few months after that they're starting production on the Batman Part 2, allegedly, if you want to believe Andy Serkis. So we're in an interesting interesting time right now. And
it
like
is.
you always say, it's like enjoy the ride.
Yeah,
And this week has certainly been a ride. This month has certainly been a ride with everything going on and everything being announced. And we're not that far away from San Diego Comic-Con next month either. So who knows what new things are going to come out of that.
we'll see. It is. I always say enjoy, especially when it comes to the Batman Part 2. I mean, enjoy the build up and I mean, to me, I looked at it when they moved it a year back. I just said, well, that's just another gear I can have to get excited for it and to follow the production and get, the hype. Because look, as we sit here right now, the Batman, we couldn't wait for it to get here. That's been over 2 years now already.
That is unbelievable to me that
I mean,
it's
we're
been
already
2 years
2+
already.
years, but we're 2+ years away from it already,
I
and
could
that
buy
thing
6 months.
yeah, yeah,
I could
it's
believe it was 6 months ago, but
I mean, really, Batman '89 is 35 years ago, and I remember
yeah,
going and standing in line. It was the first movie I ever stood in line for. I remember going and standing in line to go see it when it came out on the 23rd of June,
same.
1989, and I was right out of
I was June
college.
24th though.
And 35 years, and look where we at now. How many Batman films we've had? We've had the Dark Knight trilogy. We're beginning the Batman saga, and I am trying not to continue with this, but on my trip, well, I will say about the Batman saga is that the peripheral, the satellite stuff, like the Penguin that we get to watch here starting in September. I reread the Riddler Year One. It was the first time I read it start to finish in one sitting. That thing is it's even better than when I read it, as it was coming out. And that adds to the Batman saga. Read the novel, the junior novel. That adds a lot to the Batman. Learning how Bruce would go to drag races and street races, and he wanted to learn about cars because he was building the freaking Batmobile. We're in a time with the Batman's. I would really say to people, you need to savor this because we have not had that before, where there's a Batman universe and there's Batman stuff that goes with it, like the Penguin on Max, a streaming series, and you've had a comic book. We've had novelizations of movies. We've had the comic book version of movies, but not necessarily like the Riddler Year One.
We've had tie-ins with the characters. Like there was Penguin Triumphant and Catwoman Defiant, and then for Batman and Robin there was like a Mr. Freeze and a Poison Ivy, and Bane one shots because they were in the movie, but none of those comics had anything to do with the film itself or tied into it.
Yeah.
So this is like the first time that we're getting that whole world as the world is being built. Because we've had stuff, for better or worse after the fact, like the Batman 66 comic or the Batman 89 comic whenever it decides to ship. But I mean that for the most part, like those worlds are closed. And like this is
you're in the moment
something
right now.
Yeah, this is in the moment, and it's being made with involvement from the people who are working on the films, like having Paul Dano write a brilliant 6-issue series of how he envisioned his Riddler character to wind up on the first frames of the movie. Like we haven't seen that even when we had like the Superman Returns tie-in prequel comics like that. That just feels like a totally different beast
I don't think
we're getting now.
Yeah, you haven't had this, especially with Batman, and who knows if we get it again. To get this,
especially with these days with corporate mergers and sales and everything else.
All right, I'll shut up.
Well, you say that, but then I'm like staring at your office you
Yeah.
know. And I'm like, what did Bill's like Batcave look like in 1989? Was there just the Toy Biz figure and a Michael Keaton poster
There
on the
was
wall? Like
there
how
would be there would be nothing. That was when you
nothing.
kept it on the
Wow.
down and low. You kept it on you kept your
Yeah.
fandom in 1989. You kept your Batman, and in the 80s. Yeah. Uh, I shut that down for about a decade. Once I hit like junior high, okay, we had to
Yeah.
keep that on the, it just wasn't like it is today, where it's super cool. Batman 89, like I say, I came out of the closet as a Batman fan, and I haven't went back in since. So that's another bit of the legacy of Batman 89, at least for me. And I think for a lot of people, it changed the perception of not only Batman, but just comic books and liking characters like that and being a comic
Mhm.
book fan. It changed that,
Yeah.
completely. And I mean, it's still like today's a whole different. I mean, it's just, everyone likes Batman and everyone likes Iron Man, but you didn't have that 35 plus years ago. It's a different era, man.
Yeah. It definitely was. Um, yeah, so you can also find me on batmanonfilm.com. I had a review for Batman the Brave and the Bold that just came out this week. Um, and you and I just did a Batman animation last week talking a Batman Beyond episode. And there's a great conversation with me, Trey Jackson, and Peter R. Vera about the Batman First Night, which is also a Batman tale set in like 1939 with a Batman that very much looks like the Batman we're going to see in Cape Crusader. So if you're curious about Cape Crusader and want to dive into early Batman adventures, I would highly recommend you pick up that
Mm-hmm.
Black Label book. Um, it's definitely in that period with dialect and the aesthetic of the world, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that would be a good precursor if you want to get yourself pumped for Cape Crusader even more. Go check out that comic, listen to us talk about it, and very soon, once I get some time to edit, I'm gonna have a unboxing and quick review of the Batman Forever hot toy with Val Kilmer in the sonar suit. So that'll be up on the YouTube channel pretty soon.
Awesome. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us once again on Batmanimation. We'll probably get back into our regular rotation when there's not a big breaking news story. But that's going to do it for us this time. Thank you for listening, and announcer Rachel will take us out.
Thanks for listening to Batmanimation, a BatmanOnFilm.com podcast revisiting the animated TV and film adventures of the Caped Crusader. Follow Batmanimation on Twitter @Batmanimation. Follow BOF on Twitter @TheBatmanOnFilm. Follow Jett on Twitter @BatmanOnFilm. For Jett and Team BOF, I'm announcer Rachel. Batman on Film, authoritative, definitive, the original, established in 1998.